Okay, Prince Ali, thank you for speaking to Sky News. I'd like to start by asking you how serious you think that this crisis is for FIFA.
It's terribly serious, and I think that we have a crucial election coming up in February. I think that worldwide there is an impetus to make sure and guarantee that we have a real leadership to take us through the next few years. And I think that if we don't get it right, it will be a tremendous problem. And I think most importantly, we have to do it for the sake of football worldwide, the most popular sport in the world, as well as for our national associations, to feel confident and to know that they have a real, credible, ethical and responsible leadership.
So why are you the man to be that leader?
Well, I love football. I've dedicated my whole life to the sport, and I believe that it is so powerful, both on the professional as well as the amateur side for our boys and girls, and therefore I'm determined to fight to make sure that we have a real responsible service organization in FIFA.
You say you love football. Many people love football. This is much more than whether people like football. This is about trust. Can you be trusted to reform this organisation?
For sure. I've been stable and straightforward in what I think is needed for the organisation. I come from a national association that understands the development of football, as well as the fact that I was elected to the FIFA Executive Committee for 4 years. And I was there to fight for new ideas, a new way of thinking, and in terms of having an organization that works in the 21st century and has good practice. And because of that, I couldn't remain there after what I'd seen, and I chose instead to fight for the leadership of football.
Just make that clear. You stepped away from the
Yes.
FIFA Executive Committee because of what? What did you see that made you feel you couldn't stay there?
Well, it was the culture itself. A secretive organization. I could feel that is not the way that one runs an organization like FIFA. I felt also that there was almost this impression that FIFA owns football, whereas in reality it's our national associations that own FIFA. That there is so much more that can be done in terms of development of the sport, which is the basis of what FIFA is. It is the umbrella for the whole world. And most importantly, to have a real open organization where everybody wants to know what's happening in there, and I feel that that's what I want to deliver.
You were on the executive committee, as you say. People look at this field of candidates and your rivals, and they see FIFA insiders, current, former ExCo members, officials from FIFA or UEFA. What makes you different? Why aren't you just another one of these people who's going to serve themselves rather than football?
Well, I come from a national association, so I take the perspective of our players, of our clubs, of our teams, and of the challenges that need to be done within the organization. I come from the bottom, and we need to reverse the pyramid and have that be the priority at the top. So that's what my experience was within the organization. Also, it is a matter of leadership as well that is really key. A leadership that, again, is responsible. In other words, that doesn't pass the blame on to others, and that can give the confidence back to all our stakeholders, be they the sponsors, even the countries that they live in, and to bring back a situation where people are proud to wear the FIFA badge again.
It's a very serious criminal situation that FIFA finds itself in, investigated by the FBI and the Swiss, the US authorities. Would you support and would you cooperate, if you're FIFA president, with the US and the Swiss authorities?
The important thing is for the worldwide, for everybody to know that we are serious about making the real steps in terms of the organization itself. Once you do that, then I can approach all the authorities and say, look, this is what we're doing. Give us a chance. We're on the right track. And we can now get back to focusing on what football is about, the development of the sport and full confidence in how the organisation is run.
You were on the executive committee in a period that is the subject of these inquiries. Have you had any contact with the FBI, the US authorities or the Swiss authorities?
No, I have not.
They've not spoken to you?
No. And actually I came into FIFA, I was elected specifically because from our continent, they wanted a new face in terms of the organization. In Asia, I was the first to support the evaluation of our confederation, and I think that's a very crucial way of dealing with things in the future. But I was not part of the issues that happened before, be it the bidding process and what have you. But I'm determined to guarantee that we do things ethically and properly in the future.
Over Christmas, or just before Christmas, Mr. Blatter and Mr. Platini, both men you know well, were banned. What did you think of that 8-year ban they received for this payment?
Well, again, that's a matter for the ethics committee. And I'm not focused on what happened in the past. I'm there to energize the future of the organisation and to work in a real way.
You must have a view. These are two most senior men in football, passing more than $1 million around on a verbal agreement. You must have a view of that.
Well, my view is that FIFA, again, has to be a proper open organisation. We have to have full disclosure of finances. Even myself, I don't know what the real reality is of the financial structure within the organisation. And I'm determined to make sure that that is public, including salaries for the president, for executive committee members. That's a normal standard for good practice in any organisation worldwide. And going back again, I think there needs to be a cultural change. And
that
I
could
want
start
to bring
though,
that.
with you saying, expressing a clear view about what looks to be a payment that was certainly unethical. I'm surprised you can't at least give an opinion on what you think of this verbal contract and passing around millions of dollars.
I think it's rather obvious, isn't it? I mean, that is not how things are done in good practice around the world. And we have to ensure that that is the case in the future.
Mr. Blatter says he's innocent and he's going to keep fighting on. Do you think he's right to fight on?
Everybody has the right to do what they will. But I think what the responsible thing for the future of the organisation, and I think the desire of member associations around the world, is to have a responsible leadership for the future and to feel proud and feel secure in what's happening with football worldwide. And that includes not only our member associations, but every boy, young girl who plays and loves the sport.
Mr. Blatter told me before Christmas that he's done nothing wrong and he's going to fight and fight and fight. Do you think he's deluded?
I'm not going to comment on any other person, but I think, again, it is a matter of a cultural change. I know my ethics and what they are, and that's what I want to implement in the future.
You'll meet the Football Association and the other home nations while you're here in the UK. Do you think they'll support you? What can you do to win their support?
Well, I think it is crucial to get the support of the home nations and of the FA. Football in the UK is so important for the whole world. Everybody follows the Premier League, for example, and also on a moral ground. I think the UK has always taken the right stand in an ethical manner. I had their support the last time around, and I'm definitely seeking to get it again.
Are you confident you'll get it? Because they are, I think, for the time being, they're holding their counsel. Are you confident you can persuade them?
Well, I hope, and I am in contact with them. And I think, obviously trying to prove to them that my manifesto is the right way, that the vision is the right thing for football, and I'm pretty optimistic that we will get their support.
As you've gone around the world meeting national associations, have you had a positive support? Are you confident you're winning support?
Yes, I think that national associations across the world do want a proper change. They know that I've been consistent the whole way through, and I think that they want to see a change themselves. There's so many generations of people in the footballing world who do want to be proud of this organisation and not have the name tainted. And so I think that the momentum is there, and I want to see it through.
Three of your rivals would appear to have the support of continental blocs. Sheikh Salman is the president of the AFC, Gianni Infantino from his position at UEFA, perhaps Tokyo Sassuolo in Africa. Is there a danger this becomes another political stitch-up?
Well, I intend to make sure that hopefully that's not the case in the future, because FIFA is the umbrella for all. And therefore, every one of the 209 members has the right to choose the president that they deserve. And I'm about unity, and I'm tired of seeing the idea of divisions and people being played off against each other. That has got to end. This is about football. It's about developing the sport globally, and it's about being responsible on how to approach that.
Do you think the people who are supporting you, do you think they're in some ways afraid to say so because of this climate of big continental politics?
Well, there has always been a sort of climate of intimidation or fear in the past. But I think that even for myself, proving that I come from a small country like Jordan in development and challenging for the top of the leadership when it came to running against President Blatter, that we all have the right to do what's best for football, and we shouldn't be afraid.
Do you think is there still a climate of fear this time round?
I think generally from meeting with national associations across the world, the real fear is that we don't get it right in this election in February.
You haven't said who's nominated you. I'll ask you if you will tell us who's nominated you. Can you tell us?
Well, I think, to be honest, the majority of my nominations came from my own confederation, from Asia. But again, I don't want to get into naming national associations. I think it's their right to decide if they want to do so publicly.
I understand that, and your rivals I don't think, have been transparent about who's backing them either. Does that tell you? Should that tell the world that people are still afraid?
Well, again, it is up to each national association to say who they are, and I think the most important thing is the actual election itself, and that's what I'm focused on. And I think we have to look to the future, even about how things are done in terms of nominations. And sometimes it is recognized that there is trouble for candidates to even get nominations in the first place. But again, the real answer will come on the day of the elections themselves.
Just a couple of points that you've talked about in the past. The Garcia report, investigation into World Cup bidding. Should it be published, and why should it be published?
Well, I was the first to demand that the Garcia report be published when it happened. I think that it's rather ridiculous that we have asked somebody to come in and do a real thorough investigation of what happened on such a critical matter, such as the bidding process, and not make it public. And I think, again, we have to have it published right now, not waiting till after the elections, because as a candidate, we need to know what's happened within the organization itself.
If there's something in there about the award to Russia or to Qatar, as FIFA president, would you address that? Would you consider reopening those two World Cup award bidding processes?
The point is to look and see what happened in itself. I'm focused on the future when it comes to the World Cups and how those bids are conducted, so that they are clear, proper, and that there's no mismanagement within the awarding of future World Cups. Regarding Qatar or Russia, I mean, unless there is clear proof of criminal activity, then I believe, obviously, they have the right to host them.
Have you seen anything that's been published in the media or has been established by what we have seen publicly that gives you any concerns about Qatar or Russia?
I have not seen anything myself, and I think that's exactly why we have to have the publication of the Garcia report.
But even with the levels of allegations around Qatar, your former colleague Mohammed bin Hammam, and the vast amounts of money that were being moved around, that really doesn't give you cause for concern about the credibility of that World Cup process?
Well, we've been looking at, from what we're seeing in the media, problems with World Cups going before. So there's a whole system, and I think a culture that needs to be changed, at least for the future, and to guarantee that there is a real proper process for the World Cup. I mean, you have to have an investigative team who goes to bidding nations and makes sure that when they present their findings to the Congress, that it is done based upon the best recommendations.
As you talk about changing the way they're awarded in future, as FIFA president, if you do 2 terms, you'll be attending these 2 World Cups. Do you think you can do so, and do so credibly, and have the world have faith that these tournaments are credible?
Yes, I mean, definitely I'll make sure that is the case. I think that we have to have the basic norms of human rights, for example, of workers' rights. And I know that, for example, with Qatar, they have said the right thing, but I would be a president who makes sure that they implement them.
Looking at your manifesto, one pledge you have in there is to increase the distribution of funds to national associations from $250,000 to $1 million each. That, looked at one way, people will see that's probably the right use of FIFA's riches. On the other hand, people might ask, is this not the same method of patronage that Blatter used for years to effectively buy the support of small nations? I use that word advisedly.
No, on the contrary. I think that I have looked at what we can see of the budget right now, and it makes sense to give a baseline to national associations to develop. Coming from Jordan, for example, we need that to help with the development of football. And I have seen, for example, a haphazard way in which that aid has been given. For example, in the last election cycle, it was increased 3 times to over $1 million, ironically. But I think the important point is to have the baseline and have it known over a 4-year cycle, so that it is not used or abused according to election periods.
Okay. Just about your own background, please accept the question in which the spirit is asked. People want reform, people want change. They see an elitist FIFA with people hoarding money for themselves. You come from a privileged background, a royal background. Do you think in some parts of the world people might wonder whether that disqualifies you from being a man who can really reform?
There's no royalty in football, first of all. And I've worked very hard with our national association, for example, and with football in my continent, and I've tried my best in FIFA. And I think, again, it's a matter of character. I have my own background, both in crisis management, for example, which is maybe something that's needed in FIFA at the moment, as well as my own ethical background and morals, which I take from my family heritage. And I think that in this time, that is crucial for what FIFA needs in a leader.
Do you think your rivals have sufficiently good character?
I'm not going to comment on any of my rivals. I'm there talking to our national associations and convincing them that I'm the right man for the job.
Do you think you can convince enough of them? Do you think you can win?
I think that there is, across the world, a definite desire to have a proper change and a responsible leadership. If things are done correctly and ethically, then I'm certain that I will be the next FIFA president.